have, of course, just comment in the chat box, and I will get to them at the end. So, hello, my name's Victoria. I'm very, very excited to be speaking to everybody today. I feel very privileged and grateful to have this opportunity just to be your personal motivator, and I look forward to hopefully inspiring and mentoring and providing career coaching advice. So for the students that are on, I've been in the position that you are in, and I am definitely here to support you, and I'll be able to. I want to see that everybody succeeds. So to see you and achieve your dreams, becoming a CRA, my main purpose for this presentation is just for each and everybody to get pumped up and for the next phase of your career. So this is where you're really going to get started and dig deep, and I will be very transparent. It's a battlefield in the job seeking, but with my support and your CRA Academy support, there is no doubt in my mind that you will succeed. I hope that I'll be able to shed some light and help guide everybody, that is going to be listening today. And I hope that I'll be able to provide some special techniques that are going to help you improve and show your uniqueness as you are searching for a job. And I really want to power everybody up and effectively showcase your ability to walk, talk, and be a CRA. So we'll move on to introductions of myself. I just want to spend a little time talking about my background. I project about 30 minutes for this recording, for this lecture. I want to provide 30 minutes for everybody to interact with me and ask questions. I know I had a lot of questions, and it's just really comforting to get feedback from somebody who's been there, done that, and so I'm here for you. So a little bit about myself. My last semester, my clinical research career started from back in 2017. It was my last semester in college, and I was taking an English class with a professor. She assigned us an assignment to build a resume that you would be serious about with the job. And at the time, I was pre-med. I thought I was going to medical school, but honestly, my GPA was not there, and I just wasn't sure if that's something I was going to dedicate myself to. So I did some soul searching, research, and I found out about clinical research. It's a niche industry, right? It is difficult to get into, but once you're in this industry, you are set. So I started to network, and with my family and friends, I found a family of friends that was actually a CRA. She's a senior CRA, and somebody who I was able to shadow and volunteer, if you may, thoroughly. I had the chance to live with this couple after experiencing a job as a CRC. I worked as a CRC for 6 months. Before that, I did enter into a class. It's similar to CRA Academy, but it was more based on like a study coordinator positions. So I think that what CRA Academy has to offer is very, very valuable, and it's going to build a lot of fundamental aspects. I know it already has, but just knowing your support background with Dan and Chris, myself, and the other leaders, you should have no problem meeting your goals. So after I took a leap of faith, 6 months into my study coordinator position, I saved a little money. I went out and I volunteered for free with this couple that was a CRA. They were both CRAs. And that's where I really started to understand the difference between, a site level versus a CRO level. And then you have your sponsor. There's 3 different levels, I would categorize it out. There's a lot to learn. I know that you all have been, first, congratulations for making it this far. It's not easy learning and understanding this industry, but I assure you it will come to you like naturally one day. It won't be so overwhelming because it's a lot of information, a lot of detail, and a lot of things to keep organized. And it's a building as you go type thing. So, yes, sir, you may skip. That's enough about me. Oh, well, that's right. I am a CRA, right? So, I am able to provide this valuable information to succeed in your job because I did so much research on how to land a job. A lot of people, when I tell them my story, are very surprised, and I got a lot of negative feedback when I was trying to become a CRA, getting that position. I was very confident in my ability, my knowledge. I love to learn. I was smart. I studied outside of my job and my work. I really put in a lot of dedication, and that's what it's going to take. If you want to surpass your experience of years, you're going to have to take it upon yourself to learn what it takes to be a good CRA. And I'll tell you, you never stop learning as a CRA. It's constant onboarding trainings and learning management systems and new fundamental guidelines, with the FDA. It's a lot to learn. So I got pretty fortunate, and 6 to 7 months in of trying to find a position, phone calls, interviewing, I got hired from a small to mid-sized CRO, where I work now as a CRA 1. Next week will be 1 year. And it's funny because, I'm pretty confident in myself, but I'll tell you, I look back from today, from the day I started, and the day I started, I just felt like I knew it all, right? But CRA, it's its own world, and you just never stop learning, and I feel like just in 1 year I've overcome a lot. So it's pretty phenomenal. I know starting out new, it's pretty important. When if I could give y'all any piece of advice, it would be to, not be, look at your options, right? As I was hired by a smaller CRO, they were able to really personalize my methods of research and monitoring, the correct ways to monitor efficiently and how to source your findings. And that's a very big piece of building your growth development. So I encourage everybody to be wise as they set out and seek their job positions, to find a CRO willing to teach you these, not just look at you like another number, because this is your career we're talking about. This is your time, and you've already put in a lot of effort, and you're obviously very driven. So be wise. We'll get to it later, but I'll mention it now. It's probably going to be easier. I wouldn't say easier, but you're probably more up to getting noticed by a smaller CRO than a big one, and we'll get to that later. But now I'm going to talk. So these are a few objectives. Just you need to plan your success plan, right? You need to write it down. I would suggest that everybody write your plan. This is where it kind of begins. You need to go research the CROs. Look and see what companies hire CRAs, or if you're needing to get more experience, if you're finding that you're not getting hired as a CRA, look into different positions that will lead you to becoming a CRA, such as regulatory specialist and clinical trial assistants, CTAs. So I'm going to start with talking about how to create a killer cover letter, which is very important, how to resume, the keywords that are going to get you noticed in your profiling, recruiters, recruitment, and the power of LinkedIn, and how hard work will pay off. And we can go on to the next slide. Thank you, Chris. So in this killer resume, or this killer cover letter, right, it's very critical. A lot of people, a lot of people don't take cover letters serious nowadays. I've done some research. You can do a video cover letter. I know I spoke about this with Dan during my interview with the podcast. I did, send out some video resumes and cover letters, and they did get hits on big companies. However, I wasn't hired. But I think that through my research for this lecture, it's probably going to be more beneficial for you to actually write a cover letter. And the reason why is because a lot of people have transitioned to utilizing recruiters, and it's more acceptable, it's easier to just download, create a cover letter and send it versus making a separate video cover letter for each company. So in your cover letter, you're going to have about 6 seconds to really impress. One thing that people really mess up on is sending out a quote-unquote traditional cover letter. These traditional cover letters are not going to set you apart and take you to the next level. In other words, most traditional cover letters are going to include very generic terms, not very personable. You're not going to be able to be sharing your stories. These cover letters I'm speaking about include they include aspects of your resume, so you're not being able to share different material, and you really want to utilize your cover letter as a tool to set you out and let you be unique. So that way you can move on to the next level. And in order to do this, you need to produce something called a descriptive cover letter. This includes 4 different sections. I sent Chris, we're going to send out students the template to help you design this, just because I know in this slide it's not very descriptive. But I do want to say that the first thing you need to start out with is your short story. You have, like I said, 6 seconds to really hit the eye of the recruiter or the hiring manager, whoever's overviewing your cover letter. You want to share a story and try to connect and share your personable traits. And it's really important to also end with a closing that is very direct. And I have a little example right there for you. So next we're going to talk about the resume. So the resume, there are 6 sections to a resume. You're going to utilize your resume sort of like a piece of collateral. And these 6 sections are going to include contact information, headline, experience summary, work history, education, and something special additional experience. And especially, this is going to be special for you CRA Academy students. And I'll go into a little bit of detail about this, each section. No. So we can go on to the next slide. So how to resume. Like I was saying, you're going to utilize your resume like a marketing tool. You're going to visualize it and put it as a piece of collateral. And there's two important things that make up a good piece of marketing collateral, and that is having excellent content and good formatting. This would include for content, when we're talking about that, we're talking about you sending the right message, you being direct, and making your point across of your transferable skills and how you're going to meet the desired qualities of the candidate that's being looked upon. Now, formatting. Formatting is very important as well. Just like your cover letter, your resume is going to get about 6 seconds glanced at, and if it doesn't pass that quote-unquote test for 6 seconds, then it's most likely could possibly end up in the trash. So this is very, very important. You want to make sure that it's visually appealing, it's easy to read. You want to have enough white space so that it really keys in the eye of the reader and, like I said, makes it easy to read. You know, they don't need to be searching in a blob of text. So we'll start out talking about your headline. Oh, well, there are a few general resume rules, and this would include for the whole resume. Just to keep in mind, you want to implement your qualifiable facts. You don't want to use objectives. And each time you write something in your experience, per se, you need to ask yourself, can this be backed up? Because you're more than likely, if you do move on to the next level, you know, that's what we're hoping for, they're going to question you. And if you're not able to back it up or right off the bat, they're going to know that, you know, you're probably not telling the truth. And this is important, and I'm talking about this because this happens a lot in the CRA world. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that are scamming, and it's just not a good look. You know, recruiters and hiring managers are very wary about that. So you want to make sure that what you're putting in there is true and that you can speak on it. So your format, you want to keep your small, this is pretty general, but your font size should be no smaller than 11 points and no larger than 18. You want to use clean line fonts. My preference I use throughout everything I type, make is Arial. That's just me though. And you want to make sure that each title of each section is always bold and all caps. One thing to keep in mind, anything that you're doing, creating and presenting and branding on your own, is that it's consistent. We can go on to the next slide, please. So a few common mistakes to avoid, and this may be a no-brainer to some, but it's just important for me to tell you, just to make sure that you all know. And this is a mistake I've done, I will admit, using small print to fit more information on one page. A lot of people will tell you, you know, you're not very experienced, you don't have a lot of experience, if this is true for you. So your resume shouldn't be longer than one page. It's completely fine if your resume ends up to be 2 pages. You know, now if it's 7 pages and you only have not even a year of experience, then you're either putting in too much information, which will hurt you. So, and using big fonts makes you seem like you're screaming, and you don't want to come across as, an outcast. You want to be definitely positive. And using multiple fonts to fluff it up is never a good idea. That goes back to the whole visual thing. You want to make your resume as visual as possible because remember, you have that 6-second test. We'll go on to the next slide. So for your contact information, starting with your content, your name should be first. They say it's bad, they say to try to avoid having your middle name and your middle initial, just because it's one of those things where it makes it look blurry. It doesn't make it look clean and visual, like a good, clean picture. And you want to make sure that you're putting your real name that people know you as. For your address, if you live in a small town, it's best to use a metro city that's close to you rather than your hometown. And just for safety reasons, avoid your street address. So one big thing that's a pet peeve of mine is your phone number and your email. Of course, you don't want to be using your work information because that's not personable and not a good idea. The second thing I want to talk about this really quickly is for your phone number. So you have to keep in mind, you're putting out your resume. So in this time, you have got to answer your phone. I know a lot of times we try to avoid answering a phone number that, it's not saved in our contacts or not familiar with us, but during this time of seeking a job out, always answer your phone and always answer with enthusiasm, hello, this is Victoria, how can I help you? That type of thing, like if you were at work. Just makes you seem very professional and on point. Another thing you want to make sure is that you have some sort of voicemail. It's not professional not to have that. Making sure that you're checking your emails daily. I have notifications when I get an email, and that's just good practices and shows professionalism, especially if you're going to be a CRA or working in the clinical research industry. And then another thing you want to add is definitely your LinkedIn profile, and you want to make sure it's your URL. And also that the viewer is able to click on that to go straight to your LinkedIn profile. Some formatting things. So your name, and this is the only thing on the paper that should be 16 to 18 points. It's your preference, however it looks, visually best on your resume. But yeah, your name will be bolded in one of those fonts. The remaining text of your contact information is to be 12 points, and it doesn't matter if it's in the middle, left, or right. That's irrelevant. It's just your preference. Yes, I see everybody sending comments. I really want to get through this so that way we can talk about it. Getting through this resume part, it's kind of a drag, not as much as fun, but I think I know this information is very important, and I really hope that you guys key in on this. It's going to help you get the job quicker. So we'll go on to the second key. So your headline, and I should say that your resume and your LinkedIn profile is hand in hand. It's sort of like the same thing. The same content needs to be in the same places. It needs to be consistent in both places. When you list your headline, and in the template, the sample that you guys will be receiving after this presentation, this will probably make more sense, and I'm sorry that I don't have any examples on this slide. But so you'll have your content across for your headline, And it's not going to be, you know, clinical research associate, nothing like that. An example is going to be clinical research operations and regulatory specialist. That's just a good example. And you want to make sure it's bolded and the same size as your name. Those are the only two things that are going to be 16 to 18 points. So we'll go on to the next content, which is pretty. So this is a good part for the CRA Academy students to learn. Experience summary. So what you're going to have is you're going to have two different columns, and they're going to start out with left and right, right? You're going to start out with any skill requirements that will be required and listed in the job description. You want to kind of match and keyword, you know, make sure that your skills are fitting the requirements of what is being looked for. These are going to be like transferable skills, and you want to list no more than 6 to 8, nothing less than 4. And so you'll start out, there's 2 separate columns, and after that, you will list, we'll go on to the next slide. So you will list your work history. And this is going to be your most recent experience, your top qualifiable experiences that are relevant to the job description. This is when you want to make sure that you're not using adjectives. You want to use numbers. Numbers are very eye-catching. Nothing like, the examples are really good to talk about. So a bad example would be starting out a bullet point as a great team player. You want to, a better one would be collaborated. So you're showing kind of like a action, you know, you collaborated with 20 peers, and there's your numbers. Adding numbers in your resume, not the dates, but, you know, actual figure numbers is really going to help. Some people want to spell them out. It's better visually not to. Your title and dates need to be bolded, and then your bullet points underneath. Make sure your bullet points are all the same size. And if you do have a lengthy bullet point, just make sure that it's not one word. That just looks like a wasted space and kind of puts a dent in your visual. You want to make sure that your margins are concise, like they're consistent. It's another visual thing. Either each side is 1 inch or no bigger than 1 inch and no smaller than 0.8. Here's another good point. Some people, like if you notice on my bullet points here, I don't have periods at the end of my sentences. That's a preference of mine. When I make a bullet point, I don't like to end it with a sentence or period. A lot of professionals do. It's just a preference thing. Nothing's better than one. So, but if you do use periods, you need to make sure every bullet point with your experience has a period at the end. So we'll move on to number 5. We just have 2 more sections. This is going to be your education. So you would list your degree, your major, your school, location, and year. If you graduated, I would say 10, 15 years ago, it wouldn't be relevant or applicable for you to list your year. And showing your GPA is more, it doesn't show, or it's kind of immature, they say. For our qualifications, it's not needed. not necessarily immature, but it's just not needed. Now, if you were applying for like law school or medical school or some kind of scientific research for universities, maybe it would be applicable for that. You want to make sure that your degree and your major are bolded. And number 6, number 6 is going to talk about your additional experience. And this is where I was talking about comes in very handy for CRA Academy students. I think that this will set you apart and add uniqueness to your resume. And it also gives you an area where you can put in accomplishments, certifications, associations, your leadership roles if you were in any kind of committee, volunteering acts, any kind of significant hobbies such as significant amounts of travel, which, you know, CRAs travel all the time, so that's a key word, and adding your CRA Academy here. And then you can elaborate on each bullet point, but this is going to be very important for students that don't have a lot of experience, and because this will weigh out your experience. You know, you can show your different other traits about you that are exceptional and would add value to whatever company you would be hiring to. Next, we are going to go into keywords. So this is really, really important nowadays because, you know, like I was saying, recruiters and uploading the video resume online, it's just not a really good tool because recruiters use tools such as search engines or like artificial intelligence and to search for keywords. And this means that whatever, say there's, you know, say the client, say the organization that's looking to hire the CRA or the clinical research professional is looking for certain, you know, specific characteristics such as ICH, GCP, or ALCOAC, or monitoring visit reports. So those are key words. You want to make sure that you match those key words, you know, to a certain percentage, as much as percentage as you can. And there is a way, if you understand how your resumes are viewed, to kind of trick or go around this system by using keyword services like on the internet. And a site is listed right there for you guys. What you would do is you would take the job description, you would add it to this website as a cloud, and then you would upload your resume, and it'll tell you how many keywords are matching in your resume. So it will demonstrate that, hey, this person, you know, fits all the characteristics. We can move them to the next level. So this is going to be really beneficial for you, and it's a great tool, and it's very beneficial, and I would suggest everybody use it and learn these keywords. These keywords are going to be utilized throughout your entire branding for your personality, your characteristics, and your uniqueness, and your connection to the job. You want to make sure that you're implementing these keywords throughout your cover letter, throughout your resume, and throughout your profile on LinkedIn. So we'll move on to the next slide. I just want to talk about recruiters really quick. So like I was saying, they use those visual platforms And everybody, I'm sure, is aware. I'm sure you've heard Dan or somebody talk about it. I know he's posted videos about this or podcasts. So technology is taking over as virtual platforms and web-based data systems take over the jobs of humans. In other words, they're replacing technology for what humans used to be responsible for doing. Nowadays, your resume is not being looked at initially by a human being. In most cases. In most cases, it's put through those tools that recruiters use to analyze which candidates have the keywords in their material. And this is why it's important to make sure you brand yourself. You know, what do people think about you? Who are you, and what do you stand for? You know, when people think of me, I hope that they think clinical research associate and someone who travels and works a lot. And artificial intelligence, yes. So we'll move on to the next slide. And so making recruiters come to you, you want to make sure that you're staying connected and appear in searches, but the keywords and profiling, like I was speaking about, and preparing your voicemail, answering your phone seriously every time, and every time you don't recognize the number, have your resume ready to send and cover letter prepared. So when making the recruiter come to you, this happens when your profile on LinkedIn, because most cases than none, the recruiter will get these requests from the companies per se, like let's say Quintiles reaches out to somebody, or I don't know if they have their own recruitment or whatever. So they request for a candidate. Instead of the recruiter waiting to get applications, the recruiter will just use their little search tool on LinkedIn and see who they can pull up that would fit these job requirements. So a really good comparison is think Google, right? When we're trying to Google something, we'll put in, say I'm trying to look for a specific restaurant that sells seafood. Something on there, I don't know, shrimp cocktail. And I'm looking for shrimp cocktails specifically in this city, and it pulls up a list of restaurants, and then it goes a little in detail after that, a little bit more detail. So when these recruiters go on LinkedIn or whichever search tool they're using, they'll, type in these specific requirements for the job, and they will see who and what students are being pulled up. And next, I'll talk to you about how to, your LinkedIn profile. And this is where your LinkedIn profile is going to really come into play. So the power of your LinkedIn profile. Having those keywords is going to put you above and beyond in networking and job opportunities. You want to make sure that you're building an industry-fed network to draw in these hiring managers and recruiters and people who know you. Having people who know you on your profile is going to help you get endorsed or for different skill sets that are going to also be able to be seen on your profile. Some people that I strive to connect with is, I should go straight to the top. I go to the CEOs. You want to make sure that you're connecting with like clinical operation management teams. Either these may be like people at a sponsor level and or CRO, or even site managers, because the possibilities of getting hired, there's a lot of different job opportunities, right? So you don't want to limit yourself to just a CRO or a sponsor. At this point in time, I would say beggars can't be choosers. That's the best way I can put it. You want to make sure that you are giving your optimal of opportunities within this clinical research industry, because like I said, the hardest part is getting your foot in the door. Once your foot's in the door, you can work from there. And I think that finding a smaller CRO, you can trigger in on that. I would even suggest, Googling CROs. You can find them everywhere, just clinical research organizations. Go look at their pipeline, see if you would be a good fit, what kind of phases they have. Are these some things that resonate with you? Look at their company morals and their values. See which ones stand out to you. And I would suggest finding companies that really care about their employees. And that's very important, It's not good to have a resume, say, 2 years from now. You don't want to be having that you've worked for 5 companies. You want to stick with one company, especially when you're starting out. You want to show that you are dedicated, and that you are building on your career growth, because if you jump around, all you're going to be doing the whole time is onboarding. You're really never going to get to the meat and potatoes of what experience qualities that count in the long run. Yes. I'm not sure if I have it in the next slide. We'll see. But there's one thing that I find very interesting. Yes. So link in with LinkedIn. So if you want to have a picture, the picture, you just want to make sure that you're smiling and that it's a headshot. I think we're getting a visual of somebody. That's okay though. But so, yeah, you want to make sure you have a picture. And this is kind of like a no-brainer to me, but to others, I'm not sure. You just want to make sure that it's a clear background and a simple background, and this can be done with a smartphone. My profile LinkedIn picture is a picture that was taken in my backyard by my mom. She helped me, do a little video shoot. Well, I took it serious, I would advise people to do that. I think that the more professional of a picture you have, it's going to better your opportunities. At this point in time, it's very critical that you really analyze every aspect of your branding. So, and plus, your chances of getting clicked on or looked at is 21 times better with the picture. Next is your headline. So I can't tell you how many times I've seen this, right? People put on their headline, seeking job opportunity. Now, this is where you do not want to do this for multiple reasons. You don't want to have seeking job opportunity, because seeking job opportunity would tell me this person's unemployed. I'm not saying there's something wrong with being unemployed. I'm just saying that it doesn't look good, and it's a negative, right? Yeah. Here's an example. When I was in between jobs, I was unemployed. So if you are unemployed, this is me speaking to those unemployed. If it's you, I busted tables in that 7 months of me trying to find a job, right? I worked in a burger joint 5 miles from my house because I didn't have that much money, to drive, and I didn't want to get into a serious career because I wanted to be a CRA, and I was dedicated to get there. So, I was going to bite the bullet and whatever, bust tables. But, and when I got asked, when I was getting interviewed, what am I doing? I was honest. I told them what I just said to you guys, and but you don't want to use seeking opportunities because it is a negative. And the other thing is that it defeats you from getting Googled, getting searched and pulled up when this recruiter goes in. Your headline should be keywords to identify those transferable skills. For example, this is when you would use, say you could put in there, born entrepreneur, valued honesty, integrity, and hardworking skills. And you could add about 5 to 6 of these skills, and you can divide them by lines. I believe my LinkedIn profile would be a good example for you guys. So if you want, after this, you can go check out my profile. I tried to make sure that, you know, after giving my lecture, that you would be able to go check out what I was speaking about, just to have an idea. So your bio needs to be third person. It doesn't need to be lengthy. You know, don't try to be unique. Don't go read somebody else's, or I would suggest that you do not go read anybody else's and, you know, copy exactly what they say. Be unique. And you don't have to use fancy, big words, you know. Just make it simple and to the point. Be honest. And that's where you really find your branding, who you are, what you stand for. What do your friends and family think about you when they think of you? You know, what are you honest? Are you valued in friendship and communication? You know, do you meet timelines, and do you give top performance in 110% each time? Those are things that people look for. Honesty and true words from somebody. The rest, your experience, additional information, you want to make sure you fill out every single one of those. And you want to make sure that, like I said before, it's consistent with your resume. Another thing you want to make sure is that you're staying connected with your people, meaning, you know, comment or message them, that you're being interactive. I don't know why, but it's, you know, comparing Facebook and LinkedIn is two separate things, but I get sometimes people feel I don't know what's holding them back to communicate on LinkedIn, but don't be intimidated. You know, like I said, be yourself. Be proud of yourself. Be confident of yourself. Be confident that you're a professional and that you have every right to comment and cheer on whoever, you know. The more comments, the more articles, the more interaction that you're giving LinkedIn, the more you're going to appear in people's searches, and the more friends and the bigger network you're going to build, the more opportunities you're going to have in landing a job. When I say stay connected, I know it's happened to me. People reach out to me on LinkedIn, will say just something real short, and then they'll say, hey, here's my resume. Could you help me out? And I think, wow, they're only using me to leverage their opportunity, which I get, but you don't want to be like that. You're going to be more apt to make that personable relationship right off the bat. That's important, you know. Ask them, if you find somebody that's a CRA, message them and say something like, hey, I see you're a CRA for so-and-so company. What's your favorite thing about your job? You know, what do you love most about your job? And then if you want to contact them a month later and say, hey, here's my resume, you know, send it, or I just wanted to give it to you for your files. Have a nice day, you know. So we'll move on to the next slide. So this is entering the job circuit is and can be, let's see, how do I phrase this? It can be discouraging. It was very discouraging for me. You know, it was a hard time for me, but deep down, I knew that this industry was for me. I knew that I was capable of doing these responsibilities that a CRA does. I knew that this was for me, and there was no stopping me. And that is the mindset that you have got to have, because when you get a recruiter phone call, and you get it pumped and excited, and you're like, yes, this is a great opportunity. I can feel it. This is going to be me. This is my job. They're going to call me back. We're going to get an interview. And you know what? I hope it does happen. But it might not. And you know what? Do not let that discourage you. And if you do move on to your interview and the interview fails, well, you know what? That wasn't the job for you. And if you find that, you will know if it is you who is having problems or struggling in the interviewing process on the phone. A lot of times I tell people some things that I kind of mentor along are, first off, you never mention negativity. You need to stay positive throughout this entire process. Bring positivity to work. That's you. So just staying positive, staying on top of your knowledge. It's very, very critical that after you leave CRA Academy, that you continue to review all of your information, all of the content, and I suggest everybody go subscribe to Dan's YouTube channel. It really helped me. It helped me stay fresh, and it helped me prepare for my interviews and just review simple things like regulatory, or monitoring reports, for study startup, closeout visits, what's needed. Because for those of you lacking experience in clinical research, be prepared to get a little kind of be prepared to explain why you would be a good fit, and that you're confident in the ability and to get the job done, because you did learn from the best, you did practice these skills. You do know these skills because you're going to tell them about them. And you need to be comfortable when you tell them this. So staying on top of your terminology, the acronyms and everything is going to really help you build confidence. And one thing I will tell you is get active on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is going to be your key. That is where you're going to meet, you're going to network, and you're going to see a lot of job opportunities. You can search for so much on LinkedIn. They have a lot of learning tools. If you're not really familiar with LinkedIn, maybe go check those out. So yeah, every time you want to get on Facebook, just get on LinkedIn. And I believe, so I know that I could talk all day to you guys about, the processes and good, do's and don'ts, but we only have a short amount of time. I was thankful. I'll answer the questions now. I was really excited to do this lesson with you guys. Thank you for being patient. I really hope it was able to answer some of your questions, maybe shed some light, give you confidence. Let's see here. I'm reading the comments. This session was recorded. Do you offer formal career coaching, job hunting? Yes, I do. And for CRA Academy students, we can discuss a package and discount. Hello, most CRA roles ask for experience in eTMF and EDC platforms. What is your thought? My thought is that, I was going to tell everybody, one thing that I think got me hired is in my interview, I told you that I did a lot of self-teaching, I taught myself. I got the ICH GCP book and I read it. I watched basically a lot of Dan's videos, a lot, back from, 2016, 2017. But you definitely need to know eTMF. You need to know, so TMF, right? Trial master files. You need to know the difference between trial master files and the site regulatory binder files, right? Your investigator site files. Trial master file documents, essential documents, are extremely, extremely important. When a site gets audited, that's like one of the first things that they're gonna go through. The TMF is stored at the sponsor level, though, but documents from the site are collected from the site, from the CRA, and or the site will send them in to the sponsor, depending on whatever the sponsor wants, and those documents get uploaded, and they're very, very important to maintain. And that's kind of, yeah, you need to know that. And EDC platforms. So your EDC platforms, you will be able to acknowledge in your resume any kind of, I think what y'all do. I know that y'all learned and worked in these platforms. Those are going to be keywords that you need to put into your resume and show experience and talk about those experiences. So objectives and profile summary sections are no longer used. Profile summary. So objectives, you can use an objective. If you would like, my advice would be to put it at the front, the very front, and make it concise. And if you're going to have an objective, you need to make it very unique. A lot of people will say things like innovative, or what's another one? Starting out with passionate. If you're going to do an objective, you need to list, years of experience, therapeutic experiences or clinical research phases that you've participated in, and make sure it's full of those keywords such as ICH GCP, FDA regulations, 21 CFR part, 312, etc. Oh, TMF and EDC, that would be good to put in there. LinkedIn profile, is it still okay to mention with no experience? I don't really understand that question. Is it still okay to mention with no experience? So you say no experience. I'm not necessarily Ganish. I'm not necessarily understanding your comment. All I can tell you, though, is you do have experience. You have experience. You were a CRA Academy student. You have had, I don't know how many hours of training, and you have had experience working in these platforms such as, I'm not sure which one y'all use, maybe Intralinks but yeah, you do have experience. I have told people in the past, okay, say you haven't had actual floor, monitoring experience. And what you do is you shape your past experiences into the roles of a monitor. So the roles of a monitor, patient safety, making sure that the study, like the conduct of the study, is being ran per protocol, per ICH GCP, per SOPs for the sponsor, If somebody interviews you and asks you about your experience, do not put yourself down. Talk about how proud and confident you are and how amazing the CRA Academy was and how much information it taught you and how well your fundamentals are well-rounded now that you've had that course. Also, where do I arrange references with little experience? So I would not suggest putting references on your resume. So here's a question. My experience is primarily in medical device clinical research. Where do I look for CRA roles within medical device industry? So that's a good point. There are a lot of companies. I know that San Francisco, California is booming with CROs, and they have several clinical research device industries. I believe there is a big CRO in, I want to say, like Kentucky or something like that. All you need to do is Google, medical device CRO. But my advice to you, Ganesh, is to not limit yourself. It doesn't matter if you've only had experience in medical device industry. That's actually kind of like a bonus, I would say. So, because there's different regulations that are followed through the FDA versus a drug or a therapeutic, like immunology or immunotherapeutic indication. So what is a reasonable number of years of experience to list on your resume? So this is a really, really good question. Chigger said, what is a reasonable number of years of experience to list on your resume? Should there be a cut-off of number of years that will be more impressive to the employer? I would advise you not to lie. You always want to tell the truth. You want to make sure everything, because, one of the roles as a CRA is that, we're very trusted. We document what happened, what it is in real time. So definitely tell the truth. And the only thing that I would say that pushes people, hiring managers, away is being having a doctorate degree. A lot of people get scared from that because if you have a doctorate degree, they're going to think that you're going to be expecting more money. One thing you might be needing to prepare is negotiating skills for your compensation, what you're going to get paid. And another thing is to answer the years of experience. If there's a gap, or just be able to answer whatever question to back your experience up, and make sure that whatever you say, regardless if it's a negative, that it was kind of like a downfall for you, do not try to turn it into a positive. Yes, I would suggest everybody get your resume reviewed. I don't know if Dan and Chris are willing to do that. It only takes a couple of, minutes. I'm willing to do that. I will definitely be available to discuss with you all different charges if you would like to afterwards. But I will definitely critique your resume and help you build a successful one that's going to get you to the next level. Can you give an example of how to match keywords in the resume? So what you're going to do, matching keywords, this is a great question. I love keywords. You're going to take that responsibilities whenever you go to apply, whenever you find a job that you want to apply for. Hey, I'm a good fit. I would suggest printing it, trying to get it on a hard copy document, because they're going to have responsibilities roles. You'll find that a lot of the roles are very comparison, they're very close in matching. but there's key specific words. And I would say the key words would probably be the lessons y'all have learned. For example, the names of each week that session was, that would be like a key word. For instance, SAE, AE, data management, source SDV, source documentation verification, source data verification. You know, overseeing project management skills, data management, data analysis, patient safety, communication, and a really big part in what I do, and I try to make sure that I uphold, is a really good working relationship with my site and with my sponsor. This is because if you don't have a good communication, if you can't request something for your site, say I request something that's prominent, you know, a lot of times it will happen as the sponsor will come to me and say, hey, Victoria, we're needing, you know, your site at so-and-so. We need them to send us something. Or, you know, say a patient died or got pregnant, you know, if there needs to be a pregnancy form filled out, something big like that. We need to get this documentation now, or, you know, we need to see how many students. If it's an SAE, we need to get some documentation, whatever it may be, and you request it from the site, and say this site and you don't have a good working relationship or a communication basis, and they don't communicate back to you. It makes it really hard for you. So a big key, and also, you know, collaborating well with your team is going to show that you're good at that, and that's when you would lead into you being able to make sure everybody's on the same page. Everybody knows their own task and the deliverables and the dates that need to be met for whichever task you're doing. That's very important. So I'm reading Ashlyn. I was a CRC years ago and then left the field to work as a healthcare administrator. I'm wondering how I should verbalize that time away from the industry, and can I count my old phase 3 trials as experience even though now it is dated? Oh, absolutely, Ashlyn. You know, they say 15 years. They say that, you know, you don't want to go back 15 years. But if you worked on a phase 3 clinical research trial and you were a CRC, most definitely list that. You know, I don't know what made you change. Maybe it was that you were being overworked, or you were going to make more money, get paid more as a healthcare administrator. I mean, those are all fair game, you know. So definitely mention that and just have a positive reinforcement answer, and knowing your downfalls, you know, where you might be questioned, what may come across as a negative. Because if you think it is going to come across as a negative, first off, try to avoid that and trying to like revert it into a positive before it even happens, and be prepared to verify that it was just a life-changing event, and you're still good to go for the job. So, Chigger, I worked in allied health services for many years, and I'm thinking I might not be able to fit in all the years. So, you don't want to, first off, it's very good demonstration to show that you've been with a company for a long time. That's a really impressive thing, and that's one of your bullet points. Second off, if it's the same company, you would list the company, and then underneath it, you would have each title that you were that was your role for each title. You know, if you had different roles within the years working as an allied health servicer, and yeah, you would just kind of mention, you know, maybe you could do like a summary of everything that you did. If you were ever promoted, that's a really good thing to add and point out. I assume a lot of places use ATS. Yes. Will the template that we will be sent out be ATS compliant? ATS. Is this something like artificial something? Is this like a website that, I don't know, I can Google it right now. I don't know what ATS is. Is that like a system? If it is a system, first off, I just want to make clarification. Will the template that will be sent out be ATS? So the template that I'm sending you, it's not necessarily, I mean, it's a template, but it's an example. I wouldn't, so here's one thing. Don't use that document. Create your own. It's not necessarily a template for you to use. I say this because you can go into the properties of that document and see who created it. If somebody does that and sees, you know, you didn't create that and it doesn't match and resonate with your name, it's not going to I don't think that looks really good, personally. And just to make sure that doesn't happen, I would suggest creating your own document following the alignment, in the text sizing, format, and content that I gave you in this PowerPoint. It will match that resume. The resume I sent to you guys, or you guys will be getting, is more based on for you to see how the wording was used. You know, I really find it interesting, the words that each bullet point were started with. It's just some really great ideas. How do we negotiate salary for contract or FTA CRA positions? Is that like freelance, FTE? So Ganesh, you must be a go-getter, and negotiating salary for contract. Okay, so there are some really good tips on Google for negotiating salary. You need to be prepared if you're going to be, you know, some questions you'll get asked is like if you're doing a 1099 or there's another one. It's like a 1099 and something else. I'm not really sure about the whole contract thing. I should know, but I will tell you that if you do not have a lot of experience, maybe contract is going to be more difficult to get. I mean, if you can get it though, good, like go ahead, you know. But I'm just telling you up front, that's what's been my experience. And you want to do it hourly, so negotiating salary for contract. More or less, they'll be really upfront with you when you get your initial phone call. They may ask you, you know, what are you going to charge? Or like, what do you want? You know, what's your dollar amount? And what you ask is when you say, well, you know, it all kind of depends, like what indication is it? If it's oncology, that's going to be a higher rate. If it's cardiology, that's going to be a higher rate. You know, if it's a rare disease versus if it's like an acne study, those are different rates. But you're definitely going to be contracted per hourly. I would say, it all depends on your years of experience. And you want to look into, you can go to like, you know, annual CRA 1 or annual CRA salary for 2 years and get that salary based, and then see like what you want to meet the annual salary rate. And I always went up like $15 an hour when I would negotiate. Always shoot higher. Real high. They can always just laugh and say no, and then that's when you would say, well, you don't want to do it real high to sound foolish, but don't sell yourself short, because they'll counteract and say, oh, well, we can't do that right away, or, okay, we'll think about it. Dan will create a new CV for you when you come to California. All right. So here's my full-time exempt. Thank you. Yeah, W-2, that's right. 1099 and W-2. So objective profile summary sections are no longer used. Here is my advice. When you create a resume and you send it out, you start applying to jobs, and people say you're not getting any calls, something's not right. You should know right away. When your resume is sent out, first off, you want to try to be one of the first ones. Using LinkedIn is going to tell you, too, if you're in the top 10% or the top 90% of the applicants that have applied. It will categorize you. You want to be one of the first ones, so make sure you turn your notifications on in your LinkedIn profile for when CRA entry-level jobs come to surface. And I say, if you're not getting any feedback, like if you apply to a job and you haven't been called in a week or 2 days, maybe try doing a different format and using that objective and putting in, I would say 3 sentences demonstrating your ability to conduct clinical research effectively, efficiently, and try to put in characteristics that, yes, are keywords, but also unique. You want to be unique. You want to catch the eye. Like, I can't really remember my resume that got a lot of hits. My first sentence was really out the box. It was something like I was pretty bold, made some bold decisions like, I put on there clinical research professional and not by accident. That was my headline. And a lot of people, I got a lot of feedback, and people were kind of like, oh, wow, you're pretty person, personality-wise. Still on the same question. All right, Chigger, sorry, I'm still on the same question, but my curiosity is about the positions I've held that are not relevant to CRA jobs. Well, Chigger, here's some questions you could ask yourself. Did your job acquire HIPAA regulations, patient safety, patient confidentiality? Did you have to communicate against teams? Did you have to collect documents? Did you have to file documents? Yes, that's how you turn it around. You see, you use your past history, and don't think right away, CRA and this position, that's 2 different things, but you can you can change it. You just got to think outside of the box, but you can make the responsibilities and your skills match regardless of where you worked in the past. I don't care if, you were working at McDonald's or Walmart. I mean, this is a far stretch, but you can still relate. You have done teamwork. You have met deliverables. The importance of different regulations, not to mention your knowledge from CRA Academy. So I can either provide you with my contact information. I'll just give it to you guys right now, but it's all on LinkedIn. I have everything documented on LinkedIn, phone, email, everything. But pen and paper, I will tell you right now. And you call, text me, email me, whatever you want to do. I am here. That is something that's another example for you guys. That just goes to show dedication and professionalism. You can contact me however you want, and I will respond. That's something that makes a good CRA. You know, my team, I can email them. I mean, we'll email each other past hours, past 5 o'clock, you know, whatever. If I'm in a bind and I'm out monitoring and it's midnight and I'm freaked out because somebody's outside my hotel room, like scaring me, or, you know, I'm insecure about whatever situation's going on, I will call my boss and tell him, you know, do whatever I need to do. We're always emailing. So if you're ready, hopefully it gave you enough time. My phone number is area code 979-255-9596. Oh, here. And this is my email. So I am in the process of creating and developing a site. I have started a company. It is called BioWelch Research, and BioWelch Research is going to involve mentoring services, resume writing services, coaching services. I will be honest, my time is limited, but it's very valuable. So when I do mentor and help, you know, I'm going to document that, and we will talk about my service fees more in depth once you contact me and you're serious. But yeah, let's see what time it is. It is 4:23. If y'all don't have any questions, I just want to let you know again, big congratulations and hand of applause to you guys. I know that you worked very hard throughout this course. Understanding the clinical research arena is not easy, but I will tell you it's very rewarding as a CRA. I absolutely love my job. I'm passionate about what I do. I love the medicinal industry. So mentoring, so some of my services include interviewing skills, how to interview appropriately. This is just a quick overview. So seeking out the correct job for you, aligning your past roles to the roles of a CRA, helping you prep for your interviews, helping you answer telephone calls, helping you build techniques in communication and interviewing versus the phone over Skype, or when you do an interview, you can do a virtual interview with an individual, one person, or you could have 4 or 5 people on the other line. So those are different traits. Networking, I teach you how to network and how to build a professional brand for yourself that screams hey, I'm an excellent CRA. You want me, and I respect you, and I want you to. It's very important that when you're talking to anybody. I read something the other day. Somebody put a comment out saying he had been getting a lot of recruiters from India contacting him about clinical research jobs, and he was like, I can't even understand these people. It's not even, like, should I continue to answer my phone? And I said, yes, of course. That should just give you more of a want to answer your phone, to practice your communication skills with people from around the world. It is very, very, very valuable to be able to communicate well, verbally, giving presentations, getting your point across, like creating reports and emailing, so written, verbal communication, and to be able to communicate with people from different cultures as well is very important. I actually work with some people that are from Africa, and they have a different language, and it was difficult to kind of communicate, but we worked on it, and that's something that I'm proud of, that I can communicate effectively with people from around the world from different cultures. So if you don't want to travel on this job, what's the best area to look for? In-house CRAs, in-house CRA, CT, I don't think clinical trial associates, they can be in-house or remote. Regulatory specialist, you want to look for you can either work at the site level. You can be a regulatory manager, specialist. They all have different sorts of titles, but something to do with regulatory. You can work at the sponsor level, and depending on the sponsor, if you understand trial master files documentation, or you could do some other roles. Just in-house. Chager, I would look for in-house opportunities. I'm trying to think of places like, I work remote, right? I have a project manager. She works remote. However, when we have our bid defenses per se, she'll fly out, but she's a project manager, so it's a few steps above us. Is there any other questions? I really appreciate all your questions and everybody hanging in there till the end. This was my first lesson to ever give, and I just want to say thank you to everybody. It's been a lot of fun. I have a big passion for teaching and helping people, especially break through the industry. I feel pretty lucky that I was able to get where I am today with the amount of experience I've had and exposure to clinical research. And so with that being said, I want to give back as much as I can to other people such as yourselves who have already proven that you're driven and you're passionate about this industry, because if you weren't, you wouldn't have taken the step to enroll in this course. So I find you guys very intriguing and impressive, and I want to help you all. So I thank you for your questions and your time today. Please contact me if you ever need anything, advice. But at this time, there's no more questions. Okay. If you wanted to become a CRC, oh yeah, that's what you could do, Chigger. CRC, they what further training would you acquire? So a CRC is CRC is at the site level. They're the study coordinator. They are the people that, there's different levels depending on the site and depending on the capacity. But there could be different levels. Basically, you'll receive a protocol, and you do all the documentation for the site level to get it prepared for site initiation visits. It just all depends on the sponsor, but you basically conduct the study. You make sure that you're hitting your recruitment deadlines, you're getting everything completed per protocol, all your assessments, you're filling out your EDC. Clinical research coordinators are a great opportunity if you don't have the ability to land a job quickly. You're getting eager to work somewhere. I worked as a CRC first, and I had a lot of talk with people. A lot of people advised me that I should get experience as a study coordinator first, and I did. I did it for 6 months. I put my time in, and I think this is very good for people because, see, as a clinical research associate, one of the things that I value as have worked as a study coordinator in the past is I can relate to them. I understand their role, so I'm able to not only manage the site, but I'm able to understand what that study coordinator may be going through and supporting them along the way as well. Like if they need further explanation and training on a process that's not very clear to them or that they haven't received training in the past, I'll make sure that training is conducted and that study coordinator is comfortable, knows what's going on, knows that they can contact me anytime if they have any questions. I'd rather them contact me than have like a protocol deviation, or anything like that. So with that being said, definitely the roles of a study coordinator you would be able to fulfill without a doubt. And great, Amin, thank you. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Monica. It's been a blast. Good luck to you guys. Great. Yeah, I'm glad. All right, everybody. Well, I guess we'll say goodbye. Adios. It's Saturday. It's been a long 2 weeks for me. I've been doing a lot of projects. I'm going to go, we're still recording, but I'm going dove hunting. So I will see y'all later. Please feel free to contact me. Definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. Definitely go YouTube, subscribe to Dan. Dan is the man with the plan. He will provide information very valuable to you guys for interviewing anything you need. All right. Take care. Thank you all.